The Gamesir G4S is a good controller, like really good. It's damn near the level of the Xbox controllers. Now, it is pricey for a phone controller, coming in at $37 at the time of filming. Now, it is cheaper than an Xbox controller, but not by much. Now, if you want a wireless controller for your phone and PC and already have an Xbox controller, just get a phone mount and a Bluetooth dongle, bada boom, bada boom. Assuming, of course, it's the Xbox One S controller. Say you don't have an Xbox because you're not a scrub lord, or don't always have access to the controller, well then, enter the G4S. There are two versions of the G4S, one with and one without the 2.4 GHz dongle. Get the one with the dongle. Seriously, it adds an extra layer of functionality you cannot get from the other SKU. There are 3 ways to use this controller, assuming you have the dongle: Bluetooth, wired, and wirelessly. Wait a second, isn't Bluetooth wireless? Yes, but the dongle lets you use X input, whereas the Bluetooth is limited to direct input. What does this mean? X input means it'll act as an Xbox controller, but direct input means it'll act as a human interface device. Here, I'll show you to the best of my abilities. Here in Device Manager, with the dongle, it shows up as a 360 controller, but with Bluetooth, it'll show up as an HID, but of course, it won't connect to my Windows 10 PC over Bluetooth. I think it's an issue with my PC. Now, an official Xbox One controller is X input all the time, even on Android, where most games don't fully support it. Don't get me wrong, the big games will work fine, but some emulators and older games reject it entirely. Thus, it is currently advantageous to use direct input on Android. This isn't true for PC at all, as HID has been faded out and have been replaced with X input, and anything from the past 15 years won't recognize HID. But how is it to use? Okay, this bit's getting old. Really good. It's not quite the same as an Xbox One controller, or my favorite Afterglow Prismatic controller for the Xbox One, but it's close. The main difference being the size. The G4S is slightly smaller, not enough to cause any cramping, but ever so much to be noticeable. It's really not a big deal though. The bumpers, and to a lesser extent the triggers and D-pad, are not as good as the Microsoft option. However, the sticks are nice, a little stiffer than Xbox One, but not that much. Much like my favorite, they're covered in rubber, making it nice and easy to keep your thumb on them. Speaking of rubber, there's a rubber grip, which is a thing. I don't particularly care for it, but I also don't hate it. Now, when you compare this to other Bluetooth controllers for phones, the difference is incredible. Take this Bebon Cool gamepad that I got for $17 on sale, and holy shit, this blows the competition out of the water. Even the Mushy D-pad on the Gamesir is better than the actual ass that is on the BBCs. And yes, that is quite the unfortunate name, but that is how it shows up on the Bluetooth menus. Look at the face buttons, they are too far apart on the BBC. And yes, I will keep calling it that because of reasons. The phone mount on the BBC was so fragile that it broke the first time I accidentally dropped the controller, and now it's gorilla taped to the gamepad. Speaking of the phone clamp, the BBC is too weak to hold the device up against gravity, whereas the G4S can. Gaming in bed is possible with the G4S, but not with others. A couple of nifty features with this controller is the integrated phone clamp, which you've seen, the backlit buttons, which you've probably seen, and rumble motors, which you probably haven't seen, because rumble motors on Bluetooth controllers is not that common. It also has turbo features hidden under the phone mount, which does what it's supposed to do. I don't use turbos that much, but they do work. There are a few quirks as well. There's the manual, which has some light Chinglish in it, and it also mentions there's 2 different modes and a mouse cursor mode, which I cannot get the dang thing to switch between. The bumpers have too short a throw and are far too loud, as well as the D-pad being a bit mushy. Overall, I really like this controller, even though I can't get the mouse cursor to function, the obnoxiously loud bumpers, and the backlight on the buttons being too bright by default. The all-in-one approach has me hooked. If I want to play on my phone, boom, Bluetooth, but if I want to play on my PC, connect the cable or the dongle. All in all, I recommend this controller. Now, I want to touch on something. I call the BBC a gamepad, not a controller, for a reason. The BBC feels much more like those SNES knockoff controllers that you hook up to your emulation machine. They're not a full-fledged console controller like the actual NES controller or the Xbox One or heck the PS4. There's a sense of power and quality that comes along with it, a feeling that every rubber pad, every square millimeter, was thought out and planned carefully to be the most efficient and comfortable it can be. While I'd be lying if I said that this completely applied to the G4S, it certainly is more true than if I said the same about the BBC, or even that Moga I looked at a while ago. Those game pads, as I call them, exist solely to be cheap and to function at the bare minimum. Now, I don't hate the BBC. It was certainly the best option for me at the time, a time when the G4S was $70. Now, the Moga, I do hate. What a waste of $4.